Hey everybody. So I am in the hospital right now, not because of anything that's happened to me, but because we welcomed our little baby girl, Madeline, into the world yesterday at 5:30 a.m. So it was pretty exciting stuff. And so I found myself with a lot of downtime here because I'm watching a little baby. And I thought about a topic recently that I wanted to discuss. And so this topic is about how some people, even though they're qualified to give advice, should not give advice. So recently I've been in a discussion with a guy from Ben's World. His user handle is HD, and he claims that he is a past Bosch engineer that was involved with the manufacturing and development of KE Jetronic fuel injection system. And so I noticed that in the videos thread, he had posted a number of criticisms of my videos on KE Jetronic, saying that some of the information that I had was wrong, but also that I was encouraging people to do things that Bosch had never intended for them to do with the system, such as tampering with sealed adjustments. I think the sealed adjustments that he's referring to are the 3mm airflow meter screw, the electrohydraulic actuator adjuster, the base adjuster on the bottom of the fuel distributor, and the let's see here, what else was on there. And I think personally, some of you have seen this, the adjustments for the airflow meter potentiometer. So anyway, I acknowledge that every time I give somebody advice about one of these systems that I could be totally wrong. That I could be a complete imbecile and that I could have everything totally wrong. But typically I gauge the quality of my advice on the success of the people receiving the advice and the ability of those people to use the advice to make their car work properly. And this is something that I think requires a lot of patience, and it requires a lot of personal engagement with my subscribers who are working on these cars to try to help them get through some of the issues that they might be having. And I base the results based on feedback from individuals that I work with. So when I asked HD what the specific problem was, I'm sure that with every piece of good information I give, there might be a few errors here or there. There might be a little bit of bad information. There might be some information that could be better. There could be information that is not as correct as it could be. Like one thing he said is, the fuel distributors have no bottom chamber. And I said, yeah, I know that. It's true. The KE fuel distributor doesn't have a bottom chamber, but it's easier to refer to the bottom half of the fuel distributor as a bottom chamber because it's easier to tell people, hey, it's split into a top half and a bottom half, and there's an access port there. And so I think one of the things that we have to bring up is what my response to him was. And I said, well, if you want to correct me and you want me to distribute more correct information, then here, you can email me. I gave him my email address in the thread. Instead, he goes, well, maybe you should go back and refer to some of my posts in this thread, in my threads where I give advice to people about KE Jetronic. So there are two things here that are very clear. First of all, this guy is more interested in publishing information that he has authored rather than helping other people distribute good information. And so I've had other YouTubers and people who are interested in these cars come to me looking for information, and I try to fill in the gaps in their lack of information, or I try to help them with information that they might need in order to fill their knowledge spectrum with good information. And I get a little frustrated because instead this guy's like, well, you can look at my threads. So I go look at his threads. And most of his threads do contain advice, but he also has this condescending tone about how most people who are reading his information aren't smart enough to or capable of making the adjustments that are needed. And this is typical of a lot of engineers. I see a lot of engineers who look at a system like KE Jetronic, and especially when they were involved in the design and the development of this stuff, and they're like, the general public is just too stupid to understand how this stuff works. Um, if I do explain something to them, I'm going to explain to them why they should not be attempting any adjustments on it or whatever. So, do I ever do this? Yeah, I do. Like if somebody comes to me and they can't change their oil and they want me to explain to them how to rebuild an engine. Okay, that's a good example. Um, if they want me to explain to them how to rebuild a motor in their car, I'm not going to tell somebody who can't change oil how to do an engine rebuild. Sorry, I'm just looking for my laptop charger because here we go. Because it's almost out of battery. I didn't realize this. Okay. I'm not going to explain to somebody who can't even change their own oil how to do an engine rebuild. But I realize that if your name is Bob and you have a 560 SL or something, and you're somewhat mechanically inclined, but you're also kind of located in an area where there's nobody that can help you, because we realize in this day and age that most mechanics are not real good at their job. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying, there are a lot of mechanics out there who don't know how to adjust the fuel injection system on an 86 560 SL. It just does not happen. And I realize that there are also a lot of do-it-yourselfers out there who need to know how this stuff works so they have a good relationship with their car. Like if I didn't provide people with information about KE Jetronic or other fuel injection systems, I don't think that a lot of the people that are reaching out to me would have good ownership experiences. It could go one of either two ways. And HD, I hope you're watching this part, because what people like you don't understand is that if I give people advice and they're able to get their 560 SL, again, to accelerate right without stumbling off the line, without dying randomly or whatever, I get the car to start and idle well and have adequate levels of power, they're going to have a positive experience with the car, and they're going to want to keep the car for years. And if they don't do those steps and nobody helps them and nobody gives them that information, they're going to hate the car and they're going to go to the next guy they meet. That KE system is a piece of junk. It's a garbage system. It's awful. And in reality, it's not because the system is bad. It's because nobody explained to them how the system works. And so I get so frustrated because there are people out there who have knowledge, but they act like they're the gatekeepers of the knowledge and that nobody deserves to know the knowledge, which is exactly why I started the MBCA live chats on Zoom, because I wanted to make sure that in case anything ever happens to me or in case the MBCA ever implodes or something like that, we at least have like a knowledge base that we were able to establish where I was able to share what I learned with others. Now I keep trying to get other people to sign up to do this. In fact, I even told this HD guy, I said, if you know so much, why don't you get on our MBCA social media committee and we'll do like a live chat and you can tell us everything you know and do a better job than I did. I mean, if somebody knows more than me, by all means, I think they should take over part of my job, because I don't want to be the guy that knows everything about every single system on these Mercedes. I'd like to be one of several people who are an expert. It's a really bad situation when there's one person who knows everything. And most of what I do is I take knowledge that I've learned from other people and I put it into the public forum, because I think that that's a reasonable way of distributing knowledge. And a lot of people I know who know this stuff, for example, like my machinist who does not like YouTube or Zoom or any public forum, a lot of them are still happy to pass knowledge on to me that I can pass on to other people. So one of the problems that I also want to address in this video is the problem of being wrong. And for public record, I don't admit to knowing everything about these cars. I really don't. I mean, I didn't even start off as a mechanic. I started off as somebody who really liked Mercedes and wanted to know everything about them. And yes, I did come from a mechanical background, but I did not come from, a background of factory training. And so I admit that there are times that I'm wrong. But, you know, where else am I going to get educated? I mean, everything that I've had to learn, and if you're watching this video and you have one of these cars, everything that you have to learn or had to learn came from your direct engagement with the car, your own research, your own knowledge collection, your own information, your own study. And so I think that if you've had to go through that, I truly applaud you. Anyway, let's read some of this guy's emails, and then you guys can tell me what you think here. Probably going to have to refresh the page. I don't know. I get so frustrated because I feel like there is absolutely no reason for somebody to attack another person and say, oh, you're talking about sealed adjustments that we, like this guy represents Bosch or something, adjustments that we never intended for you peasants to touch. You guys shouldn't be touching those. Oh, but what if this simple, 30-degree turn on the airflow meter screw causes my car to run like it's so important? And sorry, so it causes my car to run like it's so good. Like, sorry, why am I so distracted? Okay. What if the 3mm adjustment on this Allen screw causes my car to run so good? And, the response is, oh, you're not supposed to touch that. You're not supposed to. But it causes the car to run better. Doesn't matter. You're not supposed to touch it. So I think that one of the problems that HD is addressing here, let's see here. I'm going to read this to you guys because I think it's just so funny. I also think that when people are arrogant or rude or whatever, it should be exposed, even if somebody's exposing me for being arrogant and rude at times, because I have been. There is a record of me going into certain Mercedes groups on Facebook and saying that, people who modify cars like W108s are idiots. Yes, I have said that. I stand behind my comments no matter how they should be. But, I think that making adjustments. So what HD has said is that certain adjustments that I make, especially these sealed adjustments, are doing nothing but masking problems. And the problem here, I don't think that they're masking problems at all. I think that a lot of the cars I work on, when I show up and I make sure that the intake manifold on the 560 SL that we referred to back has no vacuum leaks and the engine is running reasonably well and fuel delivery pressures are good. And all kinds of other problems on the car have been addressed. I don't think that there's any specific reason to tell somebody that they can't make an adjustment. And that's where my issue with HD comes in. He doesn't understand that not every adjustment is there to correct and is being made to correct an underlying issue. I think that the KE system had problems in and of itself that needed to be adjusted out of the system. Like if you have a 1990 300 SL and the car has good injector flow and no manifold leaks and it still runs too lean, for God's sake, just adjust the EHA. I mean, don't scratch your head making up problems where they don't exist. A lot of these engineers, because they always like to point to the rest of the car and say, oh, there's a intake manifold leak somewhere. Okay, well, we smoked the intake and we didn't see it. It doesn't matter, you missed it, or your smoke machine is broken. You didn't see the leak because you weren't doing a good enough job. I see this stuff and I'm like, no, there's a problem. And the problem is that that the EHA or the idle mixture screw is way out of adjustment. And I don't particularly know each and every car. But what's wrong, Maddie? Hang on one second. Hold on, I'm going to go attend to this little girl. Hey. Love you, baby. Look. This little girl loves her daddy. Because sometimes she cries for him. She already knows me. I can't believe this. She already knows me. Look at this. I know it's like a little bright here, but I'm just doing this because I don't want anybody to see my child's face so they can steal her or whatever. But anyway, okay, we're going to go look at this discussion. So, where is HD's post? Oh, I get so frustrated looking for this stuff. Okay. All right, so initially this started with, again, this is a double post. This post was posted 3 months ago. This is Pierre's detailed video on the KE Jetronic fuel injection system that Ralph references in the video just above this one. So HD said it's nice to see people try to help others to maintain their CISE cars. I'm sure that the videos in this thread are posted with this laudable aim. I'm also sure that many viewers think that these videos hold professional information and advice, but having been involved as a young design engineer in Mercedes CISE engines in the 1980s, I assure this form that CISE-related YouTube videos often hold incorrect information and inadvisable advice. Let me take the above video from post 18 as an example. So what he's saying is that I should not be giving some of the advice that I give in here and that some of my information is incorrect. He said at 3:33, the man in the video says, as in he's like afraid to refer to me. The control pressure is the pressure that is fed through these 8 lines of the injectors. This is not correct. The control pressure only exists in the lower chambers of the differential pressure valves and is not fed to the injectors. There's not even any hydraulic connection between the lower chambers and the injection lines. Well, I see what he's saying. The control pressure, we certainly don't feed working pressure to the injectors, though, HD. The control pressure is actually the pressure that is supplying the injectors. So saying that it's fed through or supplying, etc., I think it's about the same thing. Okay, now he says this is the idle mixture adjuster and this is the idle mixture adjustment. And he said he uses these misleading names for the adjustment tower. He calls it an adjustment tower, which is really frustrating. The fact that the factory service manual department people simply adopted the name of that adjustment screw, namely Gimme Schrugelager Shrub, meaning mixture regulating screw from the K Jetronic manual and the KE Jetronic manual doesn't make it less misleading. On the KE Jetronic, besides a short after start and a warm-up phase and warm-up WOT, I don't even know what a watt is, the air-fuel mixture isn't even changed via this adjuster unless the system's lambda leaning or enriching limit is exceeded, which is completely inadvisable. In my KE Jetronic lambda control thread, I explained in detail what the actual purpose of this adjustment screw was and still is and when not to use it. Okay, HD, you arrogant asshole. Well, I think that the truth is that this...
Quit talking so loud.
No, she likes it. She's like relaxing.
My stomach hurts and I don't feel good.
Okay, well, the baby likes it. Like she's like falling asleep. I know, but she's like relaxing in my arms. She likes hearing me talk, Elaine.
Well, I have to feed her anyway.
Just give me like 2 minutes, okay? Okay, well, anyway, the air, it is an idle mixture adjuster because it changes the idle mixture. That's how it makes the car run smoother. Stop overcomplicating things. He also criticized you for saying the basis of this system is extremely simple. He said the basis of the system is extremely simple. Turned out that none of them actually understood this system. I don't understand everything about the system, but I understand enough to make it work right. It is extremely simple. You have two fuel pumps that feed fuel through a fuel distributor that uses the amount of air that is being pulled into the engine to be distributed to 8 injectors, or 6 injectors, or 4 injectors, through a little regulator called the electrohydraulic actuator that uses the O2 sensor feedback through a computer to regulate the electrohydraulic actuator so that the right amount of fuel is just distributed to the injectors. I think it is extremely simple. I just explained it in 2 minutes. He criticizes me for using the word bottom chamber. Well, lower chamber, bottom chamber, whatever. So this is really funny. He says, if you have a car that is stumbling off the line, you turn the screw in a quarter of a turn in. And he said, this certainly should not be done. If you have a car that's stumbling off the line, you should rather search for and fix the cause of behavior instead of masking it via the screw. Well, HD, I find most of the time it's the screw. Anyway, I think you guys get this. I'm going to post a link to this thread so that all of you can see it. This guy might have some good advice, but he's just super rude. I don't like him. He makes me mad. I think that most of you probably understand already, what kind of person I'm dealing with here. But, when I give people advice, it's because I try to give them advice that's actually practical and understandable. I'm not an engineer, but I have an understanding of things that, an engineer might have. And anyway, enjoy, guys. I'll talk to you later.